Your 4.8 hours of daily social media scrolling is teaching your brain that algorithms know what's best for you better than you do. We've traded growth for endless feeds, and streaming choice overload has decreased satisfaction by 23% while increasing decision fatigue. While you're optimizing your Spotify playlists, your capacity to handle real challenges is literally shrinking. The average person will spend 2.5 hours deciding what to watch, but won't spend 10 minutes on something that actually scares them. Here's what nobody tells you about our comfort-obsessed culture. We've become masters at disguising avoidance as progress, turning preparation into performance. The great optimization trap. You download 47 different task management apps, but complete fewer meaningful projects than your parents did with paper planners. This is the great optimization trap, and it's consuming an entire generation. The digital productivity market exploded after March 2024, yet personal project completion rates dropped significantly during the same period. We've confused organizing our tools with doing the work. Your perfectly color-coded calendar isn't productivity. It's procrastination wearing a business suit. Here's the contradiction that defines modern life. You'll spend 3 hours researching the perfect workout routine, but won't do 20 push-ups. You'll watch 47 YouTube videos about morning routines instead of just waking up 30 minutes earlier. You'll debate productivity systems while your actual goals collect digital dust. This isn't planning. This is sophisticated avoidance wrapped in the language of self-improvement. The optimization obsession has become our generation's favorite drug. Your brain gets the same dopamine hit from organizing productivity systems that it used to get from completing actual work. Setting up your perfect workspace feels productive without the discomfort of creating anything meaningful. You organize your desktop, customize your workflow, research the ideal lighting setup, and by the time everything is optimized, you're too mentally exhausted to do the thing you optimized for. Psychology explains why optimization feels so satisfying. Your brain interprets preparation as progress because both activities involve thinking about your goals. The neural pathways light up similarly whether you're planning to write or actually writing. But planning never requires you to face the blank page, handle criticism, or risk failure. Optimization gives you the satisfaction of productivity without any of the vulnerability that comes with real creation. This addiction to endless preparation serves your ancient brain perfectly. Planning feels safer than executing because you can't fail at something you never actually attempt. You can research fitness routines for months without ever getting sore. You can optimize your investment strategy without risking actual money. You can perfect your dating profile without facing potential rejection. Optimization keeps you busy enough to feel productive while safe enough to avoid real consequences. The modern optimization trap manifests in hilariously predictable ways. You buy expensive running shoes, research optimal training schedules, track macronutrients, and never actually run. You purchase premium meditation apps, read books about mindfulness, organize cushions and candles, but can't sit still for 5 minutes. You invest in professional cameras, study composition techniques, join photography forums, and your camera stays in its bag. The gear becomes a substitute for the practice, because owning the tools feels like making progress. Social media amplifies this optimization theater. Your feed fills with aesthetic workspace photos, morning routine infographics, and productivity system screenshots. Everyone's sharing their optimization strategies while their actual output remains invisible. We've created a culture where describing your system generates more engagement than showing your results. The optimization itself becomes the performance, not the work it's supposed to enable. Decision paralysis feeds this optimization cycle. When you have 47 project management options, choosing becomes its own full-time job. You spend weeks comparing features, reading reviews, watching tutorials, and testing free trials. By the time you pick a system, you've lost momentum on the project you wanted to manage. The abundance of optimization choices has become the enemy of action. Your ancestors had one option for most things and somehow built civilizations. The productivity industry profits from your optimization addiction. Companies make more money from people researching perfect systems than from people using imperfect ones. They know you'll buy the premium version, try it for 2 weeks, then start researching alternatives. Your optimization behavior generates more recurring revenue than your actual productivity would. You're not the customer using their product to achieve goals. You're the product they sell to other optimization addicts. This endless preparation cycle trains your brain to avoid discomfort systematically. Every hour spent optimizing is an hour not spent facing the uncertainty that comes with real work. Your tolerance for ambiguity decreases, while your need for perfect conditions increases. You can't start writing until your workspace is ideal. You can't begin exercising until your routine is optimized. You can't launch your business until your strategy is flawless. The optimization becomes a sophisticated form of self-sabotage. Your brain develops what researchers call preparation bias. You become addicted to the planning phase because it provides clarity and control that actual execution never offers. When you're optimizing systems, you know exactly what you're doing and why. When you're doing real work, you face uncertainty, mistakes, and messy progress. Your brain naturally gravitates toward the predictable satisfaction of organization over the chaotic discomfort of creation. The optimization trap creates a false sense of momentum. You feel busy, engaged, and purposeful while researching productivity methods. Your calendar fills with optimization activities. You attend webinars about time management, read books about habit formation, listen to podcasts about workflow design. All of this feels like progress toward your goals, but you're actually moving away from them. You're becoming an expert in productivity theory while remaining a beginner at productive action. This behavior pattern extends beyond personal productivity into every area of life. You'll research relationship advice for hours instead of having one difficult conversation. You'll optimize investment portfolios instead of increasing income. You'll perfect workout plans instead of doing basic exercises consistently. The optimization mindset transforms every challenge into a research project, every goal into a system design problem. The uncomfortable truth hits harder than any productivity hack. All this optimization is making you less capable of handling real challenges, not more. When you finally face actual work after months of preparation, your tolerance for discomfort has atrophied. The gap between your perfect system and messy reality feels insurmountable. You've trained yourself to expect optimization to solve problems that only action can address. Your brain's negativity bias makes this worse. The amygdala notices threats 5 times faster than opportunities, constantly scanning for what could go wrong with your imperfect approach. This ancient programming pushes you back into research mode whenever uncertainty appears. You'd rather spend another week optimizing than face the discomfort of imperfect action. The perfect system is a myth designed to keep you researching instead of working. Every successful person used imperfect tools, followed inconsistent routines, and made progress despite their flawed systems. They succeeded not because they found the optimal approach, but because they started before they felt ready. The search for the perfect system is sophisticated procrastination that keeps you from developing the only skill that actually matters: the ability to work effectively with whatever tools you currently have. But optimization addiction is just the beginning. We've found an even more sophisticated way to avoid discomfort, one that feels so helpful you don't even realize it's making you weaker. AI dependency and the atrophying mind. Your phone has become a crutch for your mind, and you don't even realize you're limping. We've created a generation that reaches for ChatGPT before reaching for their own thoughts. A 2025 study reveals that people who rely heavily on AI assistance show measurably reduced capacity to work through complex problems independently when technology isn't available. Your brain is literally shrinking its problem-solving muscles because algorithms are doing the heavy lifting. The numbers paint a disturbing picture. Research shows people now rely on AI assistants for repetitive tasks like email drafting and basic decisions that they handled independently just 3 years ago. What feels like efficiency is actually cognitive atrophy. Your mental strength is deteriorating from lack of use, just like muscles weaken without resistance training. Here's where it gets absurd. People use AI to write emails that say, "Let's schedule a meeting." They ask ChatGPT to help them decide what to eat for lunch. They rely on apps to remember their own preferences, track their own habits, and make choices they used to handle instinctively. You're not saving time. you're trading mental independence for technological dependency. The most concerning trend involves emotional labor outsourcing. People now use AI to craft apologies after arguments, generating responses they should feel their way through naturally. Studies link this behavior to decreased emotional resilience. The discomfort of finding the right words, sitting with uncertainty about tone, or risking saying something imperfect has become unbearable. Your tolerance for the awkwardness of authentic communication is vanishing. This dependency reveals something deeper about our relationship with discomfort. Every time you ask AI to handle something uncomfortable, you're training your brain that you can't handle it yourself. The algorithm becomes your emotional safety net, your creative backup plan, your intellectual security blanket. You're not using AI as a tool to enhance your capabilities. You're using it as a replacement for developing them. The irony cuts deep. Tools designed to make you more productive are making you less capable. AI was supposed to free up mental energy for higher-level thinking, but instead, it's becoming a substitute for thinking altogether. You can generate a business plan without understanding business. You can write code without learning programming logic. You can craft presentations without developing communication skills. The output exists, but the competence never develops. Your brain responds to this artificial support the same way your body responds to wearing a cast. The supported area weakens from disuse. When you consistently outsource mental effort to AI, your capacity to handle cognitive strain diminishes. The neural pathways that develop through struggle and problem-solving begin to atrophy. You become mentally fragile precisely because you've avoided mental stress. Decision-making skills particularly suffer from AI dependency. Apps now recommend restaurants, suggest conversation topics, choose workout routines, and curate entertainment options. Your ability to evaluate options, weigh trade-offs, and make choices with incomplete information is deteriorating. You've become dependent on algorithmic certainty in a world that requires human judgment about ambiguous situations. The workplace amplifies this dependency crisis. Employees use AI to generate reports they don't understand, create presentations about topics they haven't researched, and respond to emails about situations they haven't analyzed. The work gets done, but no learning occurs. Professional growth requires wrestling with complex problems, making mistakes, and developing judgment through experience. AI assistance short-circuits this development process. Creative fields show the most dramatic impact. Writers use AI to overcome writer's block instead of pushing through the discomfort of empty pages. Artists generate concepts rather than developing their own visual language. Musicians create compositions without learning harmonic relationships. The creative process, which traditionally required sitting with uncertainty and working through aesthetic problems, now gets bypassed entirely. Your problem-solving atrophy becomes apparent the moment technology fails. When AI isn't available, tasks that should be routine become overwhelming. Writing a simple email without suggested completions feels impossible. Making decisions without algorithmic recommendations creates paralyzing anxiety. Your brain has forgotten how to operate without artificial support. This dependency creates a dangerous feedback loop. As your natural problem-solving abilities weaken, you become more reliant on AI assistance. The weaker you become, the more you need technological support. What started as convenient assistance evolves into essential dependency. You're not collaborating with AI, you're becoming subordinate to it. The most insidious aspect involves uncertainty tolerance. Human growth requires sitting with not knowing, working through confusion, and finding solutions despite incomplete information. AI provides instant answers, eliminating the discomfort of uncertainty. Your capacity to function effectively while confused, overwhelmed, or uncertain gradually disappears. The solution requires recognizing the difference between AI augmentation and AI replacement. Augmentation enhances human capability. Replacement eliminates the need for human capability. Using AI to research faster while still doing your own analysis represents augmentation. Using AI to generate conclusions without understanding the reasoning represents replacement. Recovery from AI dependency requires deliberate practice with technological constraints. Spend designated time periods solving problems without AI assistance. Write emails without autocomplete suggestions. Make decisions without algorithmic recommendations. Research topics using primary sources rather than AI summaries. Your mental strength returns through deliberate exercise, just like physical strength. When you consistently choose technological ease over mental effort, you're not optimizing your productivity. You're optimizing your incapacity. Every problem you avoid solving is a skill you're not developing. Every decision you outsource is judgment you're not building. Every creative challenge you delegate is originality you're not cultivating. Your mind, like your body, adapts to whatever demands you consistently place on it. Place easy demands, and it becomes weak. Place challenging demands, and it becomes strong. AI dependency isn't making you more capable. It's training your brain that you don't need to be. But even this technological crutch pales in comparison to our most addictive comfort mechanism. We've discovered something that delivers more instant gratification than any AI assistant, and it's literally rewiring our brains to avoid anything that doesn't provide immediate satisfaction. The dopamine doomscroll disaster. Social media platforms deliver this instant gratification through sophisticated dopamine manipulation systems. Your phone now provides more neurochemical rewards in 10 minutes than your ancestors received from actual achievements in a week. The average person receives more satisfaction from scrolling through feeds than from accomplishing real goals. Your brain can't distinguish between discovering genuinely useful information and consuming algorithmic junk food. Every swipe triggers the same reward pathways that evolution designed to celebrate survival victories. You're getting celebration chemicals for doing absolutely nothing meaningful. The numbers reveal a catastrophic rewiring of human motivation. Research shows people spend nearly 5 hours daily on social platforms, up from 3 hours in 2022. These short, frequent rewards from scrolling completely outpace the sustained dopamine release that comes from real achievements, which often occurs only after completion, sometimes hours or days later. Your brain now associates reward with passive consumption rather than active creation. The neurochemical math doesn't favor real work anymore. Social media algorithms have become dopamine dealers with unlimited inventory. Every scroll provides just enough satisfaction to keep you engaged, but never enough to feel truly fulfilled. This creates what researchers call the dopamine treadmill effect. You need increasing amounts of stimulation to achieve the same satisfaction level. Real-world challenges, which provide delayed and often modest neurochemical rewards, begin feeling impossibly difficult by comparison. Your reward system has been systematically hijacked by infinite scroll design. These platforms use variable ratio reinforcement schedules, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. You never know when the next scroll will deliver something interesting, so your brain stays locked in anticipation mode. This constant microstimulation makes the delayed gratification required for meaningful work feel unbearable. Why struggle through a difficult project when you can get instant satisfaction from your pocket? The contradiction becomes absurd when you examine actual behavior patterns. People scroll through hundreds of posts during lunch breaks, but claim they don't have 10 minutes for meditation. They can consume content for 3 hours straight, but can't focus on a single challenging email for 3 minutes. They'll watch TikTok videos about productivity while avoiding the actual productive work those videos recommend. The stimulation has become more appealing than the achievement. This constant digital stimulation literally rewires your neural pathways to avoid anything that doesn't provide immediate satisfaction. Your brain develops what neuroscientists call stimulation dependency. Normal activities like reading books, having conversations, or working on projects begin feeling understimulating and boring. You need the rapid-fire dopamine hits that only endless scrolling can provide. Your tolerance for natural, slower-paced rewards diminishes rapidly. Doom scrolling serves as socially acceptable self-medication for any uncomfortable emotion or situation. Feeling anxious about a deadline? Scroll through Twitter. Nervous about a difficult conversation? Check Instagram stories. Overwhelmed by your responsibilities? Browse TikTok for an hour. The behavior looks productive because you're consuming information, but you're actually numbing yourself to avoid processing challenging feelings or taking necessary action. The economy of 2025 isn't just about selling products. It's about selling panic, and your nervous system foots the bill. Every time you rage-click, doom-scroll, or engage with outrage content, algorithms learn what captures your attention. They discover what freaks you out, what grabs your focus, and what keeps you frozen on screen. This designed-to-be-addictive system hijacks your brain around the clock. Your attention has become the product being sold to advertisers. Social media companies profit specifically from keeping you in comfortable, predictable content bubbles that never challenge genuine growth. The algorithm learns your preferences and feeds you increasingly similar content. You encounter fewer opposing viewpoints, fewer challenging ideas, and fewer opportunities for intellectual or emotional growth. The platform becomes an echo chamber designed to confirm your existing beliefs while keeping you scrolling. Challenge threatens engagement, so the system eliminates it systematically. Your attention span has been fractured by constant stimulation switching. Research indicates that people can now focus on single tasks for an average of 47 seconds before seeking digital stimulation. Reading a full article without checking notifications has become genuinely difficult for most people. Sitting through a complete conversation without mental distraction feels almost impossible. Your brain has been trained to expect constant novelty and stimulation. The anxiety that emerges when you're forced to sit with difficult emotions or tasks without digital distraction reveals the depth of your dependence. Boredom, which used to signal an opportunity for creativity or reflection, now triggers immediate reaching for your phone. Uncomfortable feelings, which used to motivate problem-solving or growth, now trigger scrolling sessions that can last hours. You've lost the ability to be present with your own thoughts and emotions. Every minute spent scrolling trains your brain to choose easy stimulation over meaningful challenge. You're conditioning yourself to seek immediate gratification over delayed satisfaction. This neural training extends far beyond social media use. Your capacity to work on long-term projects, maintain difficult relationships, or pursue challenging goals diminishes because your reward system expects instant payoffs. The patience required for real achievement feels foreign to a brain trained on algorithmic rewards. Your scrolling behavior reveals an uncomfortable truth about modern discomfort tolerance. You can consume negative news for hours without taking any action to improve the situations you're reading about. You'll engage with outrage content that makes you angry, but won't engage with the difficult work required to create positive change. The stimulation feels like engagement, but it's actually a sophisticated form of avoidance. Breaking free requires recognizing that every scroll is a choice between immediate stimulation and long-term capability. Your brain will always prefer the easy dopamine hit over the uncertain rewards of challenging work. But this preference isn't random. It's driven by an ancient alarm system that can't tell the difference between real threats and growth opportunities. Your brain's hilarious threat detection system. This system becomes particularly absurd when you examine what triggers your amygdala in daily life. Your brain's threat response treats that difficult email from your boss exactly like a predator attack. When you see a challenging message in your inbox, the same fight-or-flight response activates that your ancestors experienced when facing lions. Your heart rate spikes, your palms sweat, and your breathing becomes shallow, all because someone wants to discuss quarterly reports. This threat detection system evolved over millions of years to keep humans alive in environments filled with genuine physical dangers. Lions, bears, hostile tribes, poisonous snakes, steep cliffs, and starvation were real threats that required immediate physical responses. Your brain developed sophisticated early warning systems that could detect potential dangers and trigger instant survival reactions. This programming worked perfectly when most threats could actually kill you within minutes. The problem becomes clear when you examine what your brain considers threatening in 2025. Public speaking triggers the same neurological response as being stalked by a predator. Difficult conversations activate the same stress hormones as escaping from wild animals. Trying a new restaurant generates the same cautious hypervigilance your ancestors felt when exploring unknown territories. Your brain treats a Zoom presentation like Mortal Kombat because it can't update its threat assessment protocols. Negativity bias amplifies this ancient programming dramatically. Research shows your brain registers potential threats 5 times more readily than it notices opportunities. This evolutionary advantage helped your ancestors survive by assuming every rustling bush contained a dangerous animal rather than a harmless rabbit. Better to overreact to false alarms than underreact to real threats. Your survival depended on this pessimistic assumption that everything unfamiliar posed potential danger. Modern life becomes absurd when filtered through this Stone Age threat detection system. Your brain treats notification sounds like warning calls from other tribe members. It interprets challenging conversations as territorial disputes that could lead to exile from the group. It views professional criticism as threats to your social standing that could result in being abandoned by your community. These responses made sense when social rejection often meant death in the wilderness. Your comfort zone shrinks systematically as this outdated system reinforces itself through modern experiences. Each time you avoid a challenging situation, your brain records that avoidance as successful threat management. It learns that difficult conversations are dangerous because you consistently treat them as dangerous. It concludes that new experiences pose genuine risks because you consistently avoid new experiences. Your threat detection system becomes increasingly sensitive and restrictive over time. This ancient programming manifests in hilariously specific ways throughout modern professional and personal life. Your brain treats networking events like entering hostile territory filled with potential social predators. It approaches job interviews as if you're being evaluated for tribal membership, where failure means banishment. It views creative projects as risky ventures where criticism could damage your reputation permanently. These responses made evolutionary sense when social rejection carried severe survival consequences. The system becomes particularly absurd around growth opportunities that your conscious mind recognizes as beneficial. Your brain treats learning new skills like exploring dangerous, unknown territories. It approaches leadership roles as if you're challenging the existing tribal hierarchy and risking violent retaliation. It views entrepreneurial ventures like leaving the safety of your established tribe to venture into the wilderness alone. The same programming that once protected you from genuine dangers now protects you from the challenges that would help you thrive. Most people remain completely unaware they're being controlled by software designed for a world that no longer exists. They feel anxious about public speaking without understanding that their brain is preparing them to fight for their life. They avoid difficult conversations without realizing their threat detection system is treating social discomfort like physical danger. They procrastinate on challenging projects because their ancient programming interprets uncertainty as a potential threat to survival. Understanding this system reveals why modern life feels so stressful despite being objectively safer than any period in human history. Your brain is running constant background scans for saber-toothed tigers in a world full of Zoom calls. It's preparing for physical battles in situations that require emotional intelligence. It's triggering survival responses for challenges that require creativity and problem-solving. The mismatch between your programming and your environment creates chronic stress and avoidance behaviors. Your survival instincts have become growth inhibitors in the modern world. The same caution that once kept your ancestors alive now keeps you from taking the risks necessary for meaningful achievement. The same social sensitivity that helped humans maintain tribal connections now prevents you from having honest conversations that could improve your relationships. The same threat vigilance that protected against predators now makes you avoid challenges that could develop your capabilities. The physiological responses remain identical whether you're facing actual danger or growth opportunities. Your heart rate increases, stress hormones flood your system, and your breathing becomes shallow regardless of whether you're being chased by a wild animal or preparing to give a presentation. Your body mobilizes the same resources for escaping predators and pursuing promotions. The hardware hasn't changed, but the software requirements have evolved completely. The breakthrough comes when you realize that discomfort is not always danger. Your brain will continue generating threat responses to challenging situations because that's how it's programmed to function. But you can train your conscious mind to interpret these signals differently. Instead of treating physiological activation as a warning to retreat, you can recognize it as information that something important is happening. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between fear and excitement at the physiological level. Both emotions create similar bodily sensations: increased heart rate, heightened awareness, and mobilized energy. The difference exists entirely in your conscious interpretation of these sensations. When you feel that familiar activation, you can choose to interpret it as excitement about growth rather than fear about danger. Once you understand your brain's ancient programming, you can start working with it instead of being controlled by it. You can't eliminate the threat detection system, but you can change how you respond to its signals. This awareness transforms your relationship with discomfort from automatic avoidance to conscious evaluation. But this same avoidance programming shows up in the most ridiculous places, turning even simple choices into elaborate procrastination rituals. The streaming decision paralysis epidemic. Consider how this manifests in your evening entertainment choices. The average person now spends 47 minutes daily choosing what to watch on streaming platforms, but dedicates only 12 minutes to personal development activities. Your Netflix browsing time exceeds your investment in actual growth by nearly 4-to-1. This isn't entertainment selection. This is avoidance disguised as leisure planning. You'll debate between 17 different true crime documentaries for an hour, but won't spend 5 minutes having a difficult conversation with your partner. The cognitive energy you waste on meaningless entertainment choices could transform your life if applied to decisions that actually matter. Streaming platforms have engineered the perfect paralysis machine. Netflix offers 15,000 titles, Amazon Prime provides 24,000 options, and Disney Plus adds another 7,000 choices to your decision load. The paradox of choice research from 2025 shows that people with access to more entertainment options report lower satisfaction with their viewing experiences and higher levels of decision-related stress. Your brain wasn't designed to evaluate thousands of mediocre options daily. This constant choice overload is training you to avoid commitment in every area of your life. Decision fatigue hits streaming users hardest between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m., precisely when most people should be engaging in meaningful activities like exercise, skill development, or relationship building. Instead, you're burning mental energy scrolling through endless rows of algorithmic recommendations. By the time you finally choose something to watch, you're too mentally exhausted to make important life decisions. Your decision-making capacity gets depleted by entertainment choices, leaving nothing for choices that could actually improve your circumstances. The entertainment paralysis reflects a deeper pattern of choosing comfort over growth in every major life area. People who spend excessive time deliberating streaming options also show increased avoidance of career changes, relationship conversations, and personal challenges. Your brain learns that having infinite options means never having to commit to anything difficult. Why choose one challenging path when you can endlessly browse alternatives that require no commitment or risk? This behavior becomes absurd when you examine the actual stakes involved. You can spend 3 hours doom scrolling through social media, but claim you don't have 10 minutes for mindfulness practice, despite research showing that brief meditation significantly improves well-being, while excessive social media consumption increases anxiety and depression. You'll read reviews, check ratings, and compare genres for entertainment that you'll forget within days. But you won't invest similar energy in decisions about relationships, health, or personal development that affect your long-term satisfaction. Streaming algorithms exploit your avoidance tendencies by always providing something good enough to distract you from what's actually important. The recommendation engine learns your preferences and serves content specifically designed to keep you engaged without ever challenging you to grow. These systems profit from your paralysis because indecisive users spend more time on the platform consuming advertisements and considering premium upgrades. The platforms deliberately create what researchers call manufactured scarcity around content. Shows appear and disappear, creating artificial urgency around entertainment consumption. You feel pressure to watch something before it leaves the platform, but you feel no similar urgency about pursuing meaningful goals or addressing important life issues. Your brain treats missing a Netflix series as more pressing than missing opportunities for genuine personal growth. Your entertainment browsing habits reveal an uncomfortable truth about commitment avoidance. You can scroll through streaming options for hours because none of them require real investment or risk meaningful failure. Choosing a mediocre movie costs you nothing beyond time. Choosing a challenging career path, difficult relationship conversation, or ambitious personal goal involves uncertainty, effort, and potential disappointment. Your brain naturally gravitates toward decisions with low stakes and predictable outcomes. This choice paralysis extends systematically into every area where growth requires commitment. People who spend excessive time choosing entertainment also struggle to choose college majors, career paths, romantic partners, and living situations. They've trained their brains to expect infinite options without consequences. When faced with decisions that require commitment and involve risk, they freeze or endlessly research alternatives without ever taking action. The streaming industry profits specifically from your inability to choose decisively and move on. Platforms make more money from users who browse extensively than from users who watch contentedly. Every minute you spend scrolling through options represents engagement that can be monetized through advertising, data collection, and subscription retention. Your indecision is their business model. Your brain develops what psychologists call option addiction when exposed to endless entertainment choices. You become dependent on having multiple alternatives available even when you don't need them. This addiction extends beyond entertainment into other life areas. You want backup career options, alternative relationship possibilities, and multiple life paths available simultaneously. The comfort of infinite options becomes more appealing than the satisfaction of committed pursuit. Streaming decision paralysis trains your brain to avoid any situation where you might have to stick with something difficult. You can always change the channel, switch to a different show, or browse alternative options. This constant escape hatch mentality makes you unable to persist through challenging but rewarding experiences like learning new skills, building relationships, or pursuing ambitious goals. The entertainment industry has created a generation that confuses choice with control and options with freedom. Having 17 ways to spend your evening watching other people live interesting lives isn't freedom. It's sophisticated imprisonment disguised as entertainment liberty. You're not expanding your possibilities. You're contracting them by choosing passive consumption over active creation. Your decision-making muscles atrophy from lack of meaningful exercise. When every choice involves low stakes and easy reversibility, you never develop the capacity to make important decisions under uncertainty. You can't build decision-making strength by choosing between sitcoms. You build it by choosing challenging paths and sticking with them despite discomfort. The most successful people limit their entertainment options intentionally. They understand that decision fatigue is real and that mental energy spent on trivial choices reduces their capacity for important decisions. They choose one streaming service, pick shows quickly, and invest their cognitive resources in decisions that compound over time rather than disappear after 90 minutes. This pattern of avoiding commitment through endless option browsing reveals something crucial about how we approach challenge in general. We've somehow convinced ourselves that having more comfortable choices makes us stronger, when the opposite is actually true. The anti-fragile principle you're ignoring. Your body literally gets stronger when you stress it with weights, yet you treat every other form of discomfort like it's going to kill you. This contradiction defines modern life. You'll gladly pay $60 monthly for a gym membership to deliberately stress your muscles, but you'll avoid a difficult conversation like it's radioactive waste. You understand that lifting progressively heavier weights builds strength, but somehow this biological principle disappears when applied to your mental, emotional, or professional development. The science behind anti-fragility reveals systems that don't just survive stress, but actually improve because of it. Your muscles experience microtears during resistance training, then rebuild stronger through supercompensation. This same principle operates across every aspect of human development. Yet modern culture has convinced you that psychological and emotional stress should be avoided at all costs. This misunderstanding transforms beneficial challenges into perceived threats. Research demonstrates how controlled stress exposure creates measurable improvements in neural plasticity, emotional regulation, and problem-solving capacity. People who regularly engage in challenging activities show increased gray matter density in areas associated with resilience and decision-making. Their brains literally grow stronger from managing difficult situations. Meanwhile, people who consistently avoid discomfort show measurable decreases in stress tolerance and adaptability over time. The gym analogy exposes the absurdity of selective stress avoidance. You'll do squats until your legs shake because you understand muscle growth requires progressive overload. You'll run until your lungs burn because you know cardiovascular improvement demands pushing your limits. You'll lift weights that feel impossibly heavy because you trust the process of adaptation. But suggest a challenging conversation with your boss, and suddenly stress becomes the enemy. This selective application of growth principles creates what researchers call compartmentalized development. People develop impressive physical capabilities while maintaining the emotional resilience of children. They can deadlift twice their body weight, but can't handle criticism from colleagues. They can run marathons, but avoid phone calls that might involve conflict. They've trained their bodies to handle extreme stress while training their minds to avoid minor discomfort. The progressive overload principle applies universally to human development, not just muscle building. Your capacity to handle difficult conversations grows through practicing difficult conversations. Your ability to manage public speaking improves by speaking publicly, not by avoiding presentations. Your tolerance for uncertainty increases by regularly engaging with uncertain situations. Yet most people apply progressive challenge only to their physical fitness, while demanding emotional and mental comfort in every other area. Avoiding all discomfort systematically weakens your capacity to handle life's inevitable challenges. Every time you choose the easy path, you're training your brain that you can't handle the difficult path. Every conversation you avoid teaches your nervous system that such conversations are genuinely dangerous. Every challenge you sidestep reduces your confidence in your ability to handle future challenges. You're not protecting yourself from stress. You're making yourself more vulnerable to it. Controlled exposure to manageable stress creates adaptation and growth across every domain of human experience. Relationships strengthen when couples learn to navigate conflict constructively rather than avoiding difficult topics. Career advancement requires taking on progressively more challenging responsibilities, not hiding in comfortable roles. Creative development demands risking failure through experimentation, not playing it safe with familiar techniques. The same biological principle that builds muscle mass builds life capacity. The sweet spot for growth exists in that uncomfortable zone between boredom and panic. Too little challenge creates stagnation. Too much challenge creates overwhelm. But that middle zone, where you feel stretched but not broken, is where transformation happens. Your body knows this intuitively with physical exercise. You instinctively avoid weights so light they provide no stimulation and weights so heavy they cause injury. This same calibration applies to psychological and emotional challenges. Your nervous system adapts to whatever environment you consistently provide. Create a stress-free environment and your stress tolerance decreases. Provide regular manageable challenges and your capacity for handling difficulty increases. This adaptation process never stops. You're either building resilience through appropriate challenge or losing resilience through excessive comfort. There's no neutral position. The comfort-seeking behavior that dominates modern culture literally weakens your ability to handle normal life stresses. When you consistently choose air conditioning over temperature variation, you become less capable of handling weather changes. When you avoid all awkward social situations, you become less capable of handling normal interpersonal friction. When you eliminate all uncertainty from your routine, you become less capable of adapting to unexpected changes. Anti-fragile systems share common characteristics that distinguish them from merely resilient systems. Resilient systems bounce back from stress. Anti-fragile systems become stronger because of stress. Your problem-solving abilities improve after working through complex challenges. Your emotional regulation strengthens after managing difficult situations. The stress isn't just survived, it's utilized for improvement. Understanding anti-fragility reframes your relationship with discomfort entirely. Instead of viewing challenges as obstacles to overcome, you can recognize them as opportunities for development. Instead of treating stress as something to eliminate, you can approach it as information about growth possibilities. Instead of avoiding difficulty, you can seek appropriate levels of challenge that build your capabilities systematically. The modern epidemic of anxiety and depression correlates directly with decreased exposure to manageable stress and challenge. When people live in environments that eliminate all discomfort, their capacity to handle normal life stresses atrophies. What previous generations considered routine challenges now feel overwhelming because people haven't built the psychological strength to handle them. Seeking appropriate challenge isn't masochism or unnecessary suffering. It's following the biological blueprint for becoming stronger and more capable. Your body is designed to adapt and improve when subjected to appropriate stress. This design feature applies to every aspect of your development, not just your physical fitness. The key lies not in heroic acts of endurance, but in consistent small exposures that your brain can't resist. Micro-discomfort training for comfort addicts. The transformation you're seeking doesn't require heroic gestures or life-altering commitments. You don't need to climb Everest to build resilience. You just need to take cold showers and stop making excuses. Real strength develops through practicing tiny acts of courage daily, doing small, uncomfortable things consistently until your brain stops treating minor discomfort like a survival threat. Research on neuroplasticity reveals that micro-discomfort training literally rewires your brain's threat response system. Each time you step outside your comfort zone, even slightly, you're creating new neural connections that make future challenges feel less threatening. The brain learns to reevaluate perceived threats and builds pathways that support resilience rather than avoidance. This is why taking cold showers or making phone calls instead of sending texts creates lasting changes in your stress tolerance. The micro-discomfort method works because it starts with challenges so small your brain can't mount proper resistance. When you choose to take the stairs instead of the elevator, your ancient alarm system doesn't have time to convince you that walking up 2 flights will kill you. When you make a phone call instead of sending a text, the discomfort lasts only seconds, but the neural pathway you're building lasts years. These micro-challenges slip past your brain's elaborate defense systems. Every small act of courage builds evidence that discomfort isn't dangerous. Your brain operates on evidence, not logic. When you consistently choose slightly uncomfortable actions and survive them, your nervous system updates its threat assessment database. That awkward conversation didn't kill you. That cold shower didn't cause permanent damage. That public speaking moment didn't result in social exile. Your brain begins recognizing that its danger predictions are frequently wrong. Here's the absurd contradiction that defines modern comfort addiction. People will endure hours of content they don't even like, scrolling through social media that makes them anxious or watching shows that bore them, but claim that 10 minutes of meditation is impossible. They'll sit through uncomfortable chairs, tolerate bad weather, and endure traffic jams without complaint, but avoid a brief, challenging conversation like it's life-threatening. You already handle discomfort constantly. You just don't choose it intentionally. The approach works like compound interest for confidence, exactly as research demonstrates. Small, repeatable challenges amplify your self-trust exponentially over time. Each micro-challenge expands your comfort zone in real time, and the effects accumulate. Week 1, cold showers feel shocking. Week 3, they feel refreshing. Week 6, you actually prefer them to warm showers. Your comfort zone hasn't just expanded, it's shifted entirely. What once felt impossible now feels routine, and your confidence in handling future challenges increases dramatically. Focus on 3 high-impact daily practices that require no special equipment or dramatic lifestyle changes. Make phone calls instead of sending texts when the conversation matters. Try new foods that look unfamiliar or order something different at restaurants. Speak up in meetings when you have something valuable to contribute. These actions take minutes to complete, but create lasting changes in your stress tolerance. Massive change comes from consistent small actions, not occasional heroic efforts. People who transform their lives don't typically make one giant leap. They make thousands of tiny steps in the right direction. Each micro-challenge builds momentum that makes the next challenge feel more manageable. This approach eliminates the overwhelm that prevents most people from starting. You can't fail dramatically when the stakes are deliberately kept small. Failure becomes insignificant when you start small, but the neural pathways you're building are life-changing. If you fail at taking a cold shower, nothing catastrophic happens. If you stumble during a brief presentation, the world continues rotating. But every attempt, successful or not, strengthens your brain's capacity to handle future challenges. You're not just completing tasks, you're literally rewiring your relationship with discomfort. The beauty of micro-discomfort training lies in its accessibility. You don't need gym memberships, expensive equipment, or major schedule changes. You need only the willingness to choose slightly harder options when easier ones are available. Walk instead of driving short distances. Stand instead of sitting when both options exist. Engage in conversations instead of checking your phone during awkward silences. Track your micro-challenges like data to maintain motivation and measure progress. Keep a simple daily record of uncomfortable actions you chose. This tracking serves two purposes. It makes the practice concrete rather than abstract, and it provides evidence of your growing capacity. Looking back at a month of consistent micro-challenges builds confidence that you can handle bigger challenges. Start with challenges that make you slightly uncomfortable, but won't ruin your day if they go poorly. The goal isn't suffering for its own sake. It's expanding your comfort zone gradually and sustainably. You want to feel stretched, not broken. This calibration ensures you build resilience without creating trauma or overwhelming your nervous system. The compound effect becomes visible within weeks. Things that used to feel overwhelming begin feeling routine. Conversations you avoided become normal interactions. Situations that triggered anxiety become manageable experiences. Your comfort zone expands in real time, and you can observe the expansion happening. This visible progress motivates continued practice and builds momentum for bigger challenges. The practice reveals an important truth about personal change. You're not becoming someone different through these challenges. You're becoming who you already were underneath the fear and avoidance patterns. Your capacity for courage, resilience, and growth already exists. The micro-challenges simply provide safe opportunities to access and develop these existing qualities. Within weeks of consistent micro-discomfort practice, your baseline stress tolerance increases measurably. Situations that once felt threatening feel neutral. Challenges that once seemed impossible feel merely difficult. But here's what most people miss about this transformation process. The discomfort you feel during these challenges isn't actually your enemy trying to stop your progress. Reframing resistance as your growth GPS. It's actually your internal guidance system connected to the brain's threat detection circuits, pointing directly toward your next breakthrough opportunity. That uncomfortable feeling you get when facing something challenging isn't a warning to retreat. It's a signal that you're approaching territory where real growth becomes possible. Your brain generates identical sensations for both danger and development because they often require the same physiological preparation. The difference lies entirely in how you choose to interpret these signals. Most people treat resistance like a stop sign when it's actually a growth sign flashing in bright neon colors. They feel that familiar tightness in their chest when approaching a difficult conversation and immediately conclude something must be wrong. They experience anxiety before a presentation and interpret it as evidence they shouldn't be speaking publicly. They feel overwhelmed when considering a career change and assume this means they should stay exactly where they are. Every day, countless growth opportunities get missed because people misinterpret their internal guidance system. The psychological truth hits harder than most people expect. Discomfort isn't evidence that something is wrong with your situation. It's evidence that something is working and your system is actively adapting to new challenges. When you feel that resistance, your brain is literally rewiring itself to handle expanded capacity. The neural pathways that create confidence, resilience, and capability only develop under stress. Comfort doesn't build these pathways. Challenge does. Your body sends identical signals for growth and danger because both situations require physiological preparation. Your heart rate increases whether you're being chased by a predator or preparing to ask for a promotion. Your breathing becomes shallow whether you're facing physical threat or emotional vulnerability. Your palms sweat whether you're escaping danger or entering opportunity. Research on anxiety and excitement reveals that these emotions create nearly identical bodily sensations. The difference exists entirely in your conscious interpretation of these signals. When you feel that familiar activation, you can choose to interpret it as excitement about growth rather than fear about danger. This creates an absurd contradiction in modern behavior patterns. You'll wait 30 minutes for food delivery without complaint because the discomfort of hunger feels manageable when you know relief is coming. But you won't spend 30 minutes on something that scares you because the discomfort of uncertainty feels unbearable when the outcome remains unknown. You'll endure traffic jams, long lines, and boring meetings, but you'll avoid challenging conversations, creative risks, and growth opportunities. The tolerance exists, you just apply it selectively. Reframing resistance as information rather than limitation completely transforms your relationship with challenge. Instead of asking how to eliminate discomfort, you start asking what the discomfort is trying to communicate. Instead of avoiding situations that trigger resistance, you begin investigating why certain opportunities feel threatening. This shift from avoidance to curiosity opens up possibilities that remained invisible when you treated resistance as an enemy. The practical application involves translating your internal dialogue from limitation language to growth language. When your brain generates the thought, "I don't want to do this," you can consciously reframe it as "this is important for my growth." When you feel the impulse to avoid something challenging, you can interpret that impulse as confirmation that you've identified a growth opportunity. When resistance appears, you can welcome it as evidence that you're moving in the right direction. This translation process requires recognizing that your brain's primary job involves keeping you safe, not helping you thrive. Your ancient programming prioritizes survival over satisfaction, security over success, and familiarity over fulfillment. When you understand this bias, you can work with it instead of being controlled by it. The resistance isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to protect you using outdated threat assessment protocols. The broader principle emerges clearly once you start paying attention. The stronger the resistance you feel toward a particular action, the more significant the potential breakthrough waiting on the other side. Your brain generates the most intense resistance around activities that could create the most meaningful change in your life. Public speaking feels terrifying because developing communication skills transforms your professional trajectory. Difficult conversations feel overwhelming because honest communication creates deeper intimacy. Creative projects feel impossible because expressing authenticity builds genuine confidence. Learning to distinguish between productive discomfort and destructive discomfort becomes a skill that transforms everything about how you approach challenges. Productive discomfort involves situations where the stress serves growth, like exercising, learning new skills, or having honest conversations. Destructive discomfort involves situations where the stress serves no beneficial purpose, like staying in toxic relationships or environments. The first type deserves embrace. The second type deserves elimination. Productive discomfort has specific characteristics that distinguish it from destructive stress. It feels challenging but manageable. It involves situations where you maintain some degree of control or influence. It connects to your values and long-term goals. It typically involves short-term discomfort for long-term benefit. It builds capacity rather than depleting resources. When you feel resistance that fits these criteria, you're likely facing a growth opportunity disguised as a problem. Your relationship with resistance determines your growth trajectory more than any external factor. People who learn to interpret resistance as guidance rather than opposition consistently pursue opportunities that others avoid. They understand that their comfort zone expansion happens through deliberate engagement with discomfort, not through accidental exposure to it. They develop the ability to seek out appropriate challenges rather than waiting for challenges to find them. When you begin treating resistance as your growth guidance system rather than your growth enemy, your entire relationship with challenge transforms. Difficult situations become interesting rather than threatening. Uncomfortable feelings become informative rather than overwhelming. Challenging opportunities become attractive rather than terrifying. Your resistance starts pointing you toward breakthrough instead of pointing you toward breakdown. But understanding resistance is only half the equation. Just like physical training, growth requires a systematic approach to increasing challenge over time. The progressive overload life system. The same principle that transforms your muscles transforms everything else about your capacity. Training conversations like muscles means starting with manageable disagreements and progressing toward major life decisions. Career development follows identical patterns, beginning with familiar tasks and advancing toward complex projects that stretch your abilities. This systematic approach to challenge progression, validated by neuroplasticity studies, applies universally across every domain where growth becomes possible. Progressive overload research from 2025 reveals how systematic challenge progression creates measurably better outcomes than maintaining static difficulty levels or attempting dramatic complexity jumps. Your brain adapts to whatever level of demand you consistently place on it, whether that's physical exercise, creative projects, professional responsibilities, or social interactions. This adaptation happens automatically and relentlessly, calibrating your capabilities to match the demands you regularly encounter. Here's the practical framework that transforms this principle from theory into results. Start any growth area at approximately 6 out of 10 difficulty level, where you feel challenged but not overwhelmed. This sweet spot provides enough stress to stimulate adaptation without triggering your brain's emergency shutdown protocols. If something feels effortless, increase the difficulty. If something feels impossible, reduce the complexity until it becomes manageable but challenging. The mathematics of progressive challenge work exactly like physical training schedules. Week 1, you handle 6 out of 10 difficulty. Week 3, that same challenge feels like 4 out of 10, so you increase to 7 out of 10. Week 6, 7 feels manageable, so you progress to 8 out of 10. Your capacity expands systematically through deliberate progression rather than accidental exposure to difficulty. Finding your edge becomes the most important skill you can develop for consistent growth. Your edge exists at that precise point where you feel challenged but not overwhelmed, stretched but not broken, uncomfortable but not panicked. Too little challenge creates boredom and stagnation. Too much challenge creates overwhelm and retreat. The transformation zone exists in that narrow band between these extremes, and learning to find it consistently determines your growth trajectory. Track your progress like an athlete training for competition. What felt impossible last month should feel manageable this month if your progressive challenge system is working effectively. Last quarter's overwhelming project should feel routine this quarter. Previous year's terrifying presentation should feel comfortable this year. This progression provides concrete evidence that your capacity is expanding and your comfort zone is growing systematically rather than accidentally. The importance of calibrating difficulty levels cannot be overstated because poor calibration destroys progress quickly. Set challenges too low, and you experience boredom that kills motivation. Set challenges too high, and you experience overwhelm that triggers avoidance. The goal involves finding that optimal stress level that stimulates growth without causing breakdown. This calibration requires constant adjustment as your capacity changes through development. Professional development provides clear examples of progressive overload in action. Month 1, you volunteer to lead a small team meeting. Month 3, you facilitate a department presentation. Month 6, you speak at an industry conference. Each level builds the skills and confidence required for the next level. The progression feels natural rather than forced because each challenge represents a logical extension of previously developed capabilities. Creative projects demonstrate how progressive challenge builds artistic capacity systematically. Begin by sharing your work with one trusted friend. Progress to posting on social media platforms. Advance to submitting to local publications. Eventually move toward national competitions or professional galleries. Each level develops the resilience and skill required for the next level while building a track record of successful challenge navigation. Relationship development follows identical progressive patterns. Start with small, vulnerable disclosures about minor topics. Progress to sharing significant fears or insecurities. Advance to discussing major life decisions or conflicts. Eventually develop the capacity for complete emotional transparency about the most sensitive areas. Each level builds the trust and communication skills required for deeper intimacy. The systematic approach eliminates the overwhelm that stops most people from pursuing meaningful growth. When challenges progress gradually, your brain never encounters the dramatic difficulty jumps that trigger retreat responses. Instead of facing impossible mountains, you encounter manageable hills that build the strength required for larger mountains later. Your nervous system adapts to progressive challenge by literally rewiring itself for increased capacity. Neural pathways that support confidence, resilience, and problem-solving strengthen through repeated exposure to manageable stress. Your brain learns that challenges are survivable, difficulties are temporary, and growth is possible. This neural adaptation creates momentum that makes future challenges feel less threatening. The compound effect becomes visible within months of consistent progressive challenge. Activities that once felt overwhelming become routine parts of your baseline capacity. Conversations you avoided now happen naturally. Projects that seemed impossible now feel interesting rather than threatening. Your entire relationship with difficulty transforms from avoidance to engagement. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish with dramatic effort and underestimate what they can achieve through consistent progressive challenge. They attempt giant leaps that result in failure and retreat, rather than taking systematic steps that result in sustained growth. The progressive approach builds real capacity rather than temporary motivation. Your comfort zone doesn't expand by accident through random exposure to difficulty. It expands by design through systematic progressive challenge that gradually increases your capacity to handle complexity, uncertainty, and stress. This intentional approach to growth ensures that your development happens reliably rather than hopefully. But understanding the progressive overload principle is worthless without a systematic way to implement it consistently. Growth can't depend on feeling motivated or inspired, because those feelings disappear the moment life gets complicated. Building your anti-comfort challenge system. You need a system that works when you feel terrible, when you're stressed, when you'd rather watch Netflix, and when your brain is actively campaigning against your best interests. Fixed rituals replace unreliable motivation because habits operate independently of how you feel in any given moment. This isn't about willpower. It's about creating architecture that makes growth inevitable regardless of your emotional state. The framework operates on 3 levels that create consistent momentum without requiring heroic daily efforts. Daily challenges build your baseline tolerance for discomfort through small, manageable actions that connect directly to the micro-discomfort training principles. Weekly challenges push your boundaries in specific skill areas through sustained effort that applies progressive overload to your development. Monthly challenges involve significant growth projects that expand your capabilities in measurable ways over extended periods. Your daily challenge ritual should become as automatic as brushing your teeth. Take cold showers because they provide controlled physiological stress that builds mental toughness. Make phone calls instead of sending texts when the conversation matters because verbal communication requires more vulnerability than written messages. Choose stairs over elevators when both options exist because small physical challenges build decision-making strength. Try unfamiliar foods at restaurants because expanding sensory experiences increases your adaptability to new situations. Weekly challenges target specific growth areas that require sustained practice over several sessions. Have one difficult conversation each week with someone important in your life about a topic you've been avoiding. Learn one new skill weekly through deliberate practice sessions that last 30 to 60 minutes each. This could involve practicing musical instruments, studying foreign languages, developing technical abilities, or improving physical fitness routines. Monthly challenges involve projects that significantly expand your comfort zone through extended commitment and visible outcomes. Speak publicly at local meetups, professional conferences, or community organizations about topics relevant to your expertise or interests. Create something substantial like writing articles, producing videos, building software applications, or developing artistic works that others can evaluate and provide feedback on. Take on leadership responsibilities through volunteering for committee positions, organizing events, or managing projects that require coordinating multiple people toward common objectives. The architecture approach eliminates reliance on temporary motivation by making challenge selection systematic rather than emotional. You don't wake up each morning deciding whether you feel like growing today. You follow predetermined protocols that ensure consistent progress regardless of your mental state. This systematic approach prevents the decision fatigue that kills most personal development efforts before they gain momentum. Consistency beats intensity every single time when building long-term capacity for handling difficulty. Doing something small every day compounds faster than doing something dramatic once monthly. Your brain learns through repetition, not through occasional heroics. A 5-minute daily cold shower builds more resilience than a weekly ice bath marathon. A brief challenging conversation each day develops better communication skills than an annual difficult relationship discussion. Small daily challenges expand your comfort zone in real time through accumulated evidence that you can handle discomfort. Track your challenges like an athlete monitors training data, because what gets measured gets managed effectively. Record which challenges you completed, how they felt during execution, and what outcomes resulted from the experience. This information becomes your personal growth manual that reveals patterns about which challenges serve your development most effectively. You'll discover that certain types of discomfort generate disproportionate confidence gains, while others provide minimal benefit for the effort invested. Your tracking system should capture 3 essential data points for each challenge. Difficulty level on a scale from 1 to 10 helps you calibrate future challenges appropriately. Emotional response before, during, and after the challenge reveals how your tolerance for discomfort evolves over time. Practical outcomes document tangible benefits that result from choosing harder paths, providing concrete evidence that the system works. The community advantage transforms individual growth efforts into collective momentum that makes challenge feel normal rather than exceptional. Surrounding yourself with people who regularly choose difficult paths stops hard things from feeling unusual or extreme, while accountability partners create external commitment that makes backing down from challenges significantly harder. Environmental design supports your challenge system by making difficult choices easier and comfortable choices harder. Place your phone in another room overnight to make morning scrolling less automatic. Keep workout clothes visible to remind you about daily physical challenges. Store healthy foods at eye level while placing comfort foods in less accessible locations. These environmental modifications reduce decision fatigue by making growth-supporting choices more convenient. Your challenge system succeeds through compound momentum rather than dramatic transformation. Each completed challenge builds evidence that you can handle discomfort, which increases your confidence for tackling larger challenges. Each week of consistent practice expands your comfort zone incrementally, creating space for progressively more significant growth opportunities. Each month of sustained effort rewires your brain to see challenge as opportunity rather than threat. The system becomes self-reinforcing as challenge transforms from burden to chosen path. You stop asking whether you feel like doing difficult things and start asking which difficult things serve your growth most effectively. The question shifts from avoiding discomfort to optimizing discomfort for maximum development benefit. When challenge becomes your chosen path rather than your avoided burden, your entire experience of life transforms from surviving difficulty to thriving because of it. You stop being someone who occasionally does hard things and become someone who systematically seeks appropriate challenges for continued growth. This transformation reveals something profound about the relationship between difficulty and ease that most people never discover. The mathematics prove this transformation works. While most people waste nearly 5 hours daily doom scrolling versus 30 minutes on actual growth work, you can flip this equation by systematically choosing discomfort over comfort. The difficult conversations that once terrified you become routine interactions. The projects that seemed impossible become interesting problems to solve. The uncertainty that paralyzed you becomes exciting territory to explore. Stop optimizing your comfort and start systematically building your discomfort tolerance through daily practice. Choose one small, uncomfortable thing today, take a cold shower, make that phone call, or speak up in a meeting. Share your experience in the comments to create accountability with others on the same journey. Your capacity expands through chosen discomfort, transforming your entire relationship with challenge from burden to opportunity.